Go ahead.
Well, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Welcome our YouTube viewers. Please disclose any pecuniary interest when it arises during the meeting. And we have no correspondence and no delegations today. So we'll move right to new business and the update for March 22nd. So I'll hand that over to Teresa.
Thank you. And I'll just do a review like I normally do and go through the report. So basically looking back, some of this is pretty historical information in the sense of it's from our last meeting, which I believe was January 22nd, somewhere around there. So what we did for this report is put in chronologically all the information with regards to COVID and the announcements up until where we are now, which is we have removed the ice due to moving into Lambton County, moving into gray lockdown. We did remove the ice. We did have another major user, East Lambton Minor Hockey Association, who had ended their season early prior to the county moving to gray lockdown, and another one when we moved into gray lockdown on the Friday also canceled their season. So not knowing when we would come out of gray lockdown, we only had 3 weeks left, and chances are we're in week 2 of it now. There would be only probably a week left if we were able to come out of gray lockdown by next week. So we did remove the ice, and that did go very well. And the rentals were notified. So we've done the same process as we've always done with our rentals, and that is contacting everyone, making sure that everybody was aware that the EOC got notice, council got notice, our Parks and Rec committee got notice, as well as all of our staff. And the applicable refunds are in progress. So it was a bit of would be an understatement, challenging year. But all in all, a very good year in the sense of how much time we were able to have, because the first half of the year season, we were pretty much in yellow the entire time. And then it was difficult coming back where we were in lockdown, but the whole province was in lockdown. And then we opened in orange, and we opened the arena back up. And on the same day we opened it, we were moved to red. And so we worked with our user groups and staff, all hands on deck, and we got the rink opened or continued to operate with very little blips on a red schedule. So it was a tough half this season, but I can tell you the staff were amazing to work with. The user groups were phenomenal to work with, and they were extremely appreciative of getting the amount of ice time that they did. Or I should say the length of the season that they were able to get. And we're all looking forward to next year.
Yeah. Hey, Teresa, yeah, it was, I commend you on the effort that you put in and to keep the ice in and the effort. And because I know, like when the other rinks went out in Forest and Bedford and Alvinston, Troy, and we kept ours in, and you kept everything up. So it was a lot of people were impressed, and the groups were impressed that Wofford still had theirs in and to try to accommodate as many people as they could. So hats off to you for that, and the staff. Thanks.
Well, thanks. Thank you. It's staff and council support. And then again, the users being very flexible to go, like we literally got notified. We opened up on a Friday morning. The first ice rental was at 7 a.m. And by late afternoon, 2:30, 3 o'clock, we got the announcement saying we were moving to red on the Monday. And, you know, everybody worked together, and I had support from Maddie over the weekend, Parks and Rec staff, and to work with them. And we got everybody in place. And also to the fact that council approved a reduction in rate for when we were in red, made the decision-making easier for the user groups because they were going from 22 on the ice now to 10 participants. So basically they could split their rentals in half. Each player still, or skater got the same amount of ice that they would have normally had in an orange, yellow, or green schedule, and it didn't increase their costs. So it was a win-win. And actual fact, we had a lot of extra ice picked up during red schedule, and we had really no ice to sell unless it was like before 2 o'clock weekdays. So
Good.
Great.
okay.
Any other questions on Teresa's report from anyone? Just a great job, Teresa, and your
Thanks.
staff.
Well, again, I
Excellent.
can't take all the credit because
Well, everybody pulled together, which is great.
yes, very much so. And right to the point where I think, Amanda, every Friday night I was her last call because every Friday we were getting announcements as to what we were going to be doing on Monday. So we often spent weekends working it out so that we could be ready on the Mondays. Not a lot of time, but it's still getting it all coordinated. I'll move on. So again, with the halls, with restrictions of red zone, and now we moved into gray lockdown zone, the halls are closed. All the recreational facilities are closed. Municipal buildings are closed to the public. And again, the rentals have all been informed and working on refunds or rescheduling. Some are waiting to see what we can do about rescheduling. And again, it was challenging because we'd worked with groups. And again, Maddie did an awesome job to work with groups to get them in and functional under red, which is a very low threshold, to then have to cancel. So we're still working with those groups and hopefully we'll have them back. So right now, there is no rentals anywhere in the municipality. However, just to clarify that the outdoor amenities are open as long as it's not team play. So playgrounds can be used. You can be out on a soccer field if it's, if we had one in our park, they could be using it, the tennis courts, the track, but it's still practicing physical distancing, wearing masks where possible, washing your hands, all of those items, but outdoor amenities are okay. With regards to the Watford Warwick Parks in downtown, there's nothing currently to report, but we are still working with the Horticultural Society to get ready for this spring and working on Bluebird Parkette that was approved in 2020. The ballparks, we still are working on getting the protective netting. One of the challenges is under COVID is that although we as a municipality can still function in gray, some companies will not go into a gray zone to do work. And not necessarily this one, but some of that has been a little bit more challenging, to coordinate different projects, understandably. And that'll lead me to something a little bit later. The library, we're continuing to work on those projects. They were a little bit on hold because the structural engineer that's working with me on that was also the structural engineer on the new, like the arena addition and renovations. So he was dedicating his time to that so we could get it out to tender. And we have done that. And that brings me to, am I going too fast?
Nope, I don't think so. No.
All right, just
Nope, go ahead.
to the community arena expansion and the arena renovations. So again, this may be a little bit historical, but because we haven't had a meeting, I have included it. So on January 20th, at a special council meeting, council approved energy recommendations of approximately $105,000 to qualify for the efficiencies of 15% over SB 10 building requirements. And this is through the Savings by Design program. So the architect engineers did do the modifications on, it mostly revolved around insulation. So increasing insulation or repositioning insulation. A lot of the other, I think all the other recommendations that we looked at that were the most feasible to get us to SB10 or 15% over SB10 were already incorporated in the build. But it did push back the design process. But with this, we will qualify for a $30,000 savings by design grant. So it will be, it's basically an investment in the future. So that we've taken this time to go through the workshop, hear the recommendations, review the recommendations, and the architect engineers come up with the best solution for us to get to that point. So we can now submit the drawings. So we submit the tender drawings, so the to be built drawings, to receive $15,000. And then we need to submit the as-built drawings. And then there's also a review process. It's not quite as simple as just submitting, but then we'll get the additional $15,000. So that $30,000 will offset that $105,000 extra expenditure. And we anticipate that, I think it was about less than 5 years for the payback time on that. So it was a lengthy process, but a very good process. This is something that when we are looking at the design plans, that we're really looking at energy efficiencies long-term, not just for today, but for 50 years from now, or at least 30. So a lot of those things have been taken into consideration. We did the Fcm Feasibility Study. So this feasibility study was has been completed by a consultant, and the consultant and the architect engineers with staff have reviewed the outcome. So this is also based on essentially energy efficiencies, but what this is doing is we have to have a feasibility study done in order to apply for the FCM capital grant. And the capital grant, should we get approved to it, would be, and Amanda can correct me if I have my numbers wrong, I believe it's a $750,000 grant with a low interest loan. And part of this is, for those on council will recall, that we had to have a feasibility study done if we were going to apply for the grant, for the capital grant. So we did proceed with it, but they're also reviewing our feasibility study application now. And if we're approved on that portion, then FCM will grant us 50% of the cost of the feasibility study. So right now it's with peer review, and the ministry is looking at it. There's no guarantee, but we at least have it completed. And we're now in the process of reviewing some of the recommendations. Some, again, were already built into the project. And there's 2 that we're looking at to see the feasibility of making those changes. So stay tuned on that. And we're continuing to work with specifications for security, IT, telecommunications, sound AV, kitchen equipment. And so those pieces are the owner's responsibility. So that's the Township of Warwick. So staff are working on those pieces in conjunction with the architect engineers and the contractors for these particular pieces. These are not in the design specifications, or they may be in general, like what electrical they need, but the entire security system is not in those tender plans. That would go out separately. So there are pieces that is the owner's responsibility, but the bricks and mortar pieces are the architect engineer's responsibility, and those are in the tender package that went out, if that makes sense. And Amanda, correct me anytime when I've got my wording wrong. We are doing an upgrade in service to an 800 amp transformer. So if you recall, at the north end of Watford Arena, Community Arena, there is a hydro pole there, and that pole will be removed because it's required that this 800 amp transformer is on the ground. So it'll be set on a cement or concrete pad, and we'll be working with Blue Water Power to remove the pole. So there are a lot of pieces that are moving around right now. It's exciting. All the fixtures have been selected. And again, we're keeping in mind cleanliness, maintenance is a priority. You know, how, like, for example, energy efficiencies. So changing out the lights in the lobby of the arena and the hallway where the dressing rooms are to LED, so that we now have LED in that entire area. And when we talk about everything being selected, we have selected, but for example, the floors, we've selected what type of floor and where it's going to go and what type of wall. And a lot of that dealt with cleanliness. So for example, in the change rooms that both the Y and the township will be using off of the gym, it's how to keep that the cleanest possible, as well as the kitchen area. Are we putting ceilings in? Or are we not going to put a ceiling in? And but when it comes to colors, later on, we'll be selecting from a palette. Like, so they will be setting up color selection and giving us recommendations on what would work. So you're not going to probably see, like, for example, I love purple. You're probably not going to see purple throughout the building because not everybody's going to like purple. And some of the other things that we looked at too was not only what type of flooring, but what activity would be going into that room, or could we change the flooring in order to accommodate more or more rentals or different type of rentals. So for example, in the meeting room, originally we had carpet in there, but we've changed it out to a sport floor. So it's the same thing as a gymnasium floor, but it looks totally like hardwood, and it'll be a darker color. And then that way it can be used for scouts. It could be used for the after school program because it's a smaller room and the floor will survive that. It could be used for a birthday party, a children's birthday party, because those things are smaller and we don't need to put them in the gym. And this way we can keep food and beverages off of that area. But then if you still have a company AGM or meetings in there, it will still look professional. So that's the kind of look we were going with. And with regards to that, we did change out, I think I've mentioned this before, but the faucets in all of the dressing rooms, the arena dressing rooms, to gooseneck. So it'll have a gooseneck and a hand faucet so that athletes can fill up their water bottles in the dressing room. In case I forgot, there's still going to be refill stations in the main public areas. And with that, in the 3 existing change rooms, we will be putting new vanity type sinks in there to match the other dressing rooms. So there's some things that we worked on specifically to keep it consistent and to keep it matching, and then also that there wouldn't be one dressing room with a gooseneck and one that didn't have it. So we did work on that also. I think that's pretty much it with regards to fixtures and whatnot.
Teresa, one thing I'm a little concerned about, you mentioned maintenance and cleanliness, but you never mentioned safety. I'm concerned a little bit with the shower change room floors, that they're not slippery.
Yep, and that's a good point. Sorry, safety was a factor.
Okay.
Because when thanks for bringing that up. Yeah, because when we picked it, we're looking at all of that was one of the things, was that we needed to have non-slip floors. So yes, we did look at that. Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. So yeah, so all in all, the Y is in great shape. They're thrilled that the project's gone to tender. Just a few more things. Demolition plans had been submitted. So we did have a third-party company that did an assessment on hazardous materials asbestos in Centennial Hall, which is a requirement to be done before demolition. And then that, all the specifications from that process were included in the tender. So we just can't go and tear it down. There will be some abatement that's going to be required prior to demolition. The parking area at the north end of the arena, I know people have asked about parking. There will be some challenges while we still have two buildings. Well, we're building and opening, and we still have Centennial Hall that's being used. And then there'll be, when it gets demolished, after I'm sure we'll have a large party. Hopefully we can. And then that will be the parking, the primary parking lot with just over about 220 spots. The north end of the building will still remain as is. For us to add gravel to it, we do require an additional 2 or 3 drains. So we do not have that in the plans at this time. And there still will be street parking. We've had lots of people ask about that too. So we will still have parking along the side of the arena. The building department has been consulted, and they were consulted throughout the project. I actually touched base with them when I first started a year ago, and they now have all the tender plans, and I'm in the process with our architect engineers to submit our building permit, and also Lambton Public Health, because they're the ones that will approve the kitchen, both the indoor and the outdoor kitchen. The plans have been sent to them for feedback as well. And there was, to my knowledge, there's no concerns with regards to anything that we have in the designs for either the outdoor or the indoor kitchens. So based on council's direction, you know, well, I should say, there is a generator at the arena right now, and the generator is not sized for the full addition that we're putting on. So at this time, council's made a decision that we will shed loads and then manually add them back on as we need them. But the design will be, we're investing some money into it so that the design will be that there won't be, I guess in layman's terms, very little interior work that has to be done. Everything to the generator essentially will be done. And then in the future, a new generator can be added, but there won't be the extra work that needs to be done interior. And that was left with our electrical engineer to work on the shedding and how we will do that. And the refrigeration plant for the arena, air conditioning, those are 2 really, really high users. And so it'll depend on what time of the year that we go on backup power, what's happening, like if it's an emergency where we have a shelter, then the kitchen's going to be more important than the refrigeration. So those are things that we will get a full background on how we will manual make those changes so that we can rotate things through. The project was tendered on March 10th. Very exciting day. And originally we were closing it on March 31st, but we have revised the closing date to April 6th. So that's right after Easter Monday. And so it was posted on Spreed Associates, our architect engineers, with an advertisement also on the township's website and Facebook page. And you may have noticed it all that there were ads in the local papers. I don't know if you saw them in the local papers. And as well, it was listed on the Sarnia Construction Association website, as well as the London District Construction Association. And you can actually go on to Spreed Associate and it will tell you who the plan takers are. They're not all general contractors. Sorry. Some are the trades that are also hoping to be included in the general contractor's work. So it's very positive right now. We were going to have a mandatory site meeting on March 17th, but because we're in gray lockdown, there's no way we could have a mandatory site meeting and ask people to come to a gray zone, lockdown zone. So instead, what we've done is anyone who wants to just visit the site and visit it, but if they want to get access to the buildings, they have to request it through me, and then I make those arrangements. And then they follow all the COVID protocol. We don't answer the questions. All the questions go to Spreed Associates for the answers. So it's all a very controlled system, and so that it's also very fair and equitable. And we're looking at the possibility of bringing the tender report back to the April 12th meeting, council meeting, for review and possibly approval. And then from there, we would start with our general contractor, get the contracts in place and start. And prior to that, you'll see things starting to disappear in the park system. The Watford, they're not actually disappearing. It's our Parks and Rec staff will be doing some site work. So we will be repurposing things, as I've said in the past. So you'll see the ball diamond fence will start to come down in April before we've awarded the contract, or about the same time, so that we've, whatever the owner has said we're taking responsibility for, we need to get that off the site first. And we'll be repurposing that fence to the new ball diamond to do the east and west sides of the ball diamond. So that will be coming up. Okay, so I know that's a lot of information on the new hall, but it's probably, I tried to give the best overview of everything that's gone on and decisions that have been made, but I'm sure there's a lot more. But this was a highlight. I don't know if there was any questions about. I say everybody, no?
No,
Nope.
Okay.
looks good.
Report. Very good report. Yeah.
Okay. And then we're talking about the capital fundraising campaign. So for the bricks and mortar of the building, we're looking at approximately $11.5 million. So we are looking to do a capital fundraising campaign. Council approved doing a feasibility study, and basically that was to see, test the market, to say, as in raising funds for a new community complex and arena renovations. It was delayed a bit, primarily due to my time with COVID and working on different changes related to that. But I am pleased to say that we are done. We finished the last interview, I believe it was on March 16th. So we identified about 40 names, and I think we probably interviewed 47 people or so in total. So we did send out personalized emails to invite the participants to the study. All members of council were interviewed, and that was completed in February. There was an interim report for the steering committee, and the interviews, like I said, were completed on March 16th. So we will be reviewing the results with the steering committee. And then on March 29th, we'll be bringing the report. Sue Eggles from Inspire, the consultant that worked on this project, will be bringing a presentation to a special council meeting on March 29th. And we have had some initial discussions and planning for a capital campaign. And we just need to start to formalize that once that report has been presented to council. If there's any, no questions?
No questions.
Okay. Thank you. The Parks and Rec Tourism and Culture Master Plan Development was awarded to Monteith Brown. We've had the contract and it's been signed. We had an initial meeting with Monteith Brown and staff and our staff on February 4th, and preliminary work to support the Parks Recreation Master Plan is underway with a consultant. And we now are reviewing the community consultation portion and revisiting the timelines, because again, we were looking at potentially starting in March with community consultation, but with all the changes in Parks and Rec that were due to COVID, we are a little bit behind on this also, but we will be reviewing some of the materials that have been developed for us actually tomorrow morning, I'm hoping. And so we're moving forward with that. And you'll start to see, we're hoping early April, community consultation starting on that. So whether it be interviews, focus groups, an open house, but again, unfortunately, due to COVID, and we anticipated this, it will all be done by Zoom or through Zoom or an online platform of some sort. So due to the changes in Parks and Rec operations earlier than anticipated, and then being in lockdown, the entire province being in lockdown the first 6 weeks of the year approximately, and now that we have the ice out, our staff are working on a modified schedule with the same number of hours. And so we still have part-time staff that are coming in, and they're working on, again, cleaning up the arena and getting some outside work done. So lead hand Steve and the staff are working on those pieces because I've said in April, I'm going to be giving them, we'll be working on quite a long list to get ready for construction. So they're very, very busy in Parks and Rec. Programs and events. The Homestyle Maple Syrup Festival is scheduled for Sunday, April 4th. Last year, it was also on Easter Sunday, but it was a week later. It was the 12th of April. Parks and Rec have somewhat taken a leadership role on this event. And we're looking to package the maple syrup, the invitation card information into plastic baggies, or the week of March 29th, so next week, predominantly looking at bagging or packaging everything hopefully on the 30th and delivery on the 31st, which gives us April 1st as a buffer, because then the next day is Good Friday. So I will be following up with all of those who had expressed interest. We do have 1,550 bottles of maple syrup that's already ready for pickup. And we have baggies ordered that will be coming in on Saturday, working on the invitation cards or the promotional cards, and also ads in the paper next week. And we'll get it on social media and on the township's website too. So again, unfortunately, because the fire departments aren't able to have their traditional in-person maple syrup festivals, we are going with the Homestyle festival that we did last year. No? Okay. Next. Under other, we are reviewing and developing for emergency reception centers under COVID-19 guidelines. We did have a meeting with the Optimist Club, and we're hoping that sometime in the future we'll also have a meeting with the Legion, because they're both listed as volunteers. And basically this year, we didn't have, I don't think we had a few bad snow days, but nothing like where we needed to open a reception center at the arena. And I should have added too, we're also, we've also gotten the call already, or sorry, email, if we're going to be opening a cooling center again this summer. And I said, yes, I anticipated it, but we do have to work out a safety plan with the contractors, because the with the arena being a construction site, how we would run programs, events, and a cooling center under those conditions. But it is definitely doable. And that was everything that I had to report since the last meeting.
Excellent. Thank you.
Teresa.
Go ahead, John.
Yeah, I was just wondering, how's it look for the spring, summer programs, ball hockey, baseball? What are we thinking there?
So I've had conversations by email for ball hockey and also for ball. And right now it's similar as hockey. We would, I like same as a winter season, that I anticipate that we would run something if we were in a zone that allowed us to under those restrictions. But it's whether the user groups will move forward with it. We haven't quite nailed that down yet. It's a tough one again.
Yeah.
I know that there has been communities that have already decided very early that they were not going to be running baseball or soccer this year. And I hope that we can work with our groups to have some recreation activities for the summer.
Yeah.
Wayne?
Yeah, Teresa, to follow up on John's question there, besides COVID, what about construction regarding our summer programs?
Yeah, so we did have a discussion about this. And one of the, basically, we can run programs provided we work with the general contractor on a safety plan, because there will be parts of it that are under construction. And so it'll be access to bathrooms, and it's ball hockey, so they don't necessarily need a dressing room. So we will be, our response to that was, once a general contractor has been selected, that we will work with them to determine the best way for us to be able to operate programs, events, and services, as well as we work there. That's where our offices are, and so on and so forth, to be able to continue to offer something.
Okay. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Can I just ask a question about the why the change for the Maple Syrup Festival? Why going from volunteer run to staff run?
Oh, there was staff involved last year, and there's still lots of volunteers involved this year.
Okay. It just sounded to me like the staff had taken it over, and I thought, why did we go that way?
No. I think it was, if I could say, so, and Amanda can correct me if I'm wrong, Amanda played a very big role last year, as well as Mayor Romboats. And so instead of Amanda as a administrative clerk playing that role, it's an event. So it just seemed to fit better with Parks and Rec. I don't like if we're going to streamline things, because we do, Parks and Rec generally are the ones that are working with all the events in the community. So we still are working with the fire departments. We're still working with the Optimist Club. We're still working with the Rotary Club. And if you'd like to volunteer, Martina, I'll take all the volunteers to package and deliver.
What day is that? What day do you?
Package? I'm hoping on the 30th, Tuesday the 30th.
Okay. So we just show up.
Go ahead. Yeah.
We just show up. Need help? Yeah.
No, if you could just let me know if you're interested in helping out that day. And because one of the things is that we still have to have a safety plan, and make sure that, we're wiping down the bottles. I've got cleaning supplies on my list. That we have our workstation set up so that we're all physically distanced. This year we will have to wear masks. So basically it's just, getting everything packaged, but still doing it in a safe way for the volunteers as well as the people receiving the packages.
Okay.
Amanda, you had something to say?
Thank you. I was just going to add to Martina's question that it was a partnership last year between the municipality and our fire department, who, as you know, typically our associations run both of their own events, and then also our community service clubs, and we had a lot of great involvement, and we'll certainly be reaching out to them and asking them if they're interested and available to be involved as well this year. So it's still the same partnership, just definitely an internal delegation from myself to Teresa, and I'm very pleased to have that support also. So that's the only change.
Yeah.
Great. Any other questions? Wayne.
Oh, I like that.
Teresa, when can you get those lines painted on the entrances to the park? I got asked that again.
Oh, yes. It hasn't lost, I haven't lost sight of that at all.
Legally.
Yes, no, I have not lost sight of that. That's a
Thank you.
project, and then yeah. So once I'm pretty confident we're past but yeah, no, I have not lost sight of that. So we'll get
Okay,
that done
thank
this
you.
spring. Yeah, thanks for the refresher, for the reminder.
Great. Okay. Is there anything else that we need to discuss tonight from anybody? Going once. Oh, Amanda.
Oh, Amanda.
I know. Was that a sigh, Mr. G? I actually have no content. Just a procedural reminder to you, Chair White,
Yes.
that we will need a receive and file motion for our Parks and Recreation report before our adjournment motion.
Perfect. Can I ask
Thank
for
you.
that from the three members? Moved by Wayne, seconded by Martina. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. And seeing no other business, can I ask for an adjournment motion? Martina was first to the line and seconded by John. All in favor? Thank you and have a great night. And thank you to our YouTube watchers. Good night.
Thanks, everybody.
Adjourned. Yep. I got